Mic check. Hello, hello. Congratulations, Amma, on being first. Welcome, Kippy, who technically sent the first message. Shout out to Pokers. Nick, Lopesca, how we doing? Okay, let's see how this goes. Hello, hello. We are back once again. Get that mystery out of here. We are here with the Revolt Racing League. We have Division 3, Week 4. Welcome in, Rod. Welcome in, chat. We will be starting shortly. I've got a quick little pre-show. I can go over what we're going to be hopping into and etc. So I guess we can do that by first covering how our standings are sitting. We've got Lopesca out in first place. Not a huge surprise there. He's been doing quite well. But we've got some challengers. Now there is a bit of a points gap between them since Lopesca's already won 2 sessions out of 3. But we've got Tova, Kondrakov, Kotick, and Kippy. And Tova, a mainstay in Revolt competitive. We often see him at Polish series, etc. Welcome in, Roddick. Good to see y'all. Shout out to the racers who are going to be soon racing in just a few minutes. The lobby will be opening here in about 2 minutes. But we got Kondrakov as well, who competed in the previous RVRL. We've got Kotick, often seen in IO sessions. Kippy, another titan of Revolt, like Lopesca. They're showing up here in Division 3 though, and Kippy has not been able to make it work to the same degree, but there's a lot of Kippy fans. They've been showing up every week. In fact, Sting thought that Kippy was a shoo-in to win the last session, so there's still a lot of hope for Kippy to turn on the gas, find a couple spots, maybe even fight for that first place, because guess what? We've got a whole lot of racing left to go. You can see just how many slots are left unfilled. We've got Roddick as well, who is just in the chat, showing up with some interesting car picks here and there, bringing out the pink rotor on Route 77, an iconic choice for sure. We've got Berdang representing Latino America, and he's a big fan favorite amongst the Latino American crowd. We've got Jerome, who won his division last season, if I remember correctly. And he did quite well in the first session, hasn't been able to bring those same results, but I've got a lot of faith in Jeromu. We've got Wallison, who I have not heard of before this event, but he's doing quite well for himself. Inigo, who has been showing up in competitive events, hasn't been able to find the results I know that he wants. He has been a dark horse for me here and there. Wasn't able to come to the last session. In fact, a bunch of people weren't able to make it to the last session. Now that is okay, because I do believe they only keep your best 7 out of 10. But we'll see how many people make it into this session, because the lobby should be open right about now. So I will go ahead and show the last week results on the screen for a minute here. But I am going to be trying to join the lobby. You can go ahead and see for yourself. Last week was my race session. Every single racer got to choose what they wanted to race, and every single racer was given a block, and so they were able to block those options as well if they so desired. And you could see if they were able to win their own session or not, or their own race rather. And for example, Lopesca was able to do so, but a lot of racers not able to win on their own race, which was an interesting little phenomenon, but it does make sense at the same time. Now, I personally thought I was going to be bringing the Chimera TC on stage with me here on the other TV, because that's who I expected to see being raced here in today's session, which is a circuit session. So if you're not familiar with the HotSeat League, maybe you don't know what the format is for this week, it is a circuit session. We're going to be racing on Darkvale Forest, Green Haze Valley, RV Simo on-road track, K-Tune Speedway, LS Tama Valley Route B, and we'll be ending it with a track made by Zyno, I do believe, Jimson Weeds Raceway. And also shout out to Saffron, who made a good number of those tracks too, I think. A lot of the Gran Turismo tracks. And so as for the car, Toyeka, EXE TC, and Chimera TC are the three options as for main cars. So if you choose one of those cars, you have to stick with that car throughout the entire session today. You cannot switch between cars at all. After we begin on Dark Veil Forest, you have to stick with the car that you chose the whole way through. But if you're feeling kind of crazy, maybe a little bit wacky, you can go for the Hummer Cougar AMW combo. And so that's kind of like a value meal where you can freely switch between all three of those options depending on how you see fit for the track. So for example, Cougar, gonna have a lot of top speed. Maybe you want to use that on some tracks, and then you want to use the Hummer on the more technical tracks. And then maybe you just want to race AMV because you're just crazy like that. So the option is yours. We'll see who goes for what. It does look like we've got a wide range of options being brought out today. How we doing, chatters? I see you, Famous. I see you, Makakasi. Welcome in, y'all. But it does look like in the lobby we've got 4 EXE TCs, 3 Toyekas, 1 Chimera TC, 1 Cougar, and 1 AMV. So 2 people going with that that special deal where they get to race more than one car. And you know what? We'll go ahead and hop over now. The MAWay being driven by Jeromu. So we saw Jeromu bring this car out in the pros session. The pros, it was stock pros with pickups on. And I believe we saw him bring that car out in that session as well. And he stuck with it the whole way through. So we might see Jeromu on a full way through AMW pick. We also saw Lopeska asking some questions in the chat, the Discord chat, about if he would be able to use Cougar and maybe something else, like Toyeka, EXETC. That of course not allowed, but he possibly alluded to the fact that he may use Hama a bit here and there with that question, a bit indirectly. But we'll see. He may just stick with Cougar the whole way through as well. I definitely expected to see 0 EXETCs going into this. I've done an event with EXETC before. In fact, it was pretty much our very first Revolt Cash Cup was an EXETC Endurance. We called it the E, or the triple E, Endurance, EXETC Endurance, and then something else we came up with to make it the E. And it was not very well enjoyed. We had 2 people leave the session despite paying to enter the session on the very first track. It was a mini endurance session. There were like 3 or 4 different tracks, and we had 2 different people leave the session that they paid to enter on the very first session. So I wouldn't say it was particularly a successful session. It wasn't very well loved. There were landing issues all over the place with the EXETC, but since these are circuit tracks, we should see much less landings in general. And so those landing issues going to be minimized or maybe disappear entirely. And so it looks like it's actually a pretty well-liked car in a situation like this. The third E was just event, EXETC Endurance event. Thank you, Riles. You're absolutely right. There it is. The E. We never, so I think we had better sessions after that, but we never had better named sessions after that. So shout out to the E, and I hope that we can see you again sometime. We got some Sever fans in the chat, both in in-game chat and Twitch chat. Let's see, Mateo resigned due to IRL conflicts, I think. So a number of people not going to be able to make it here. Honkito, yes. yeah, unfortunately the RV Loco in that spectator position, so sad to see, truly is, but it is what it is. Would love to see that RV Loco come out sometime. But yeah, we've got Kotick, we've got Roddick, Inigo, Tova, Kondrakov, Berdang, Seber, Kippy, Lopeska, and Jeromu. So we are missing the usuals. We're missing Felipe, Oisiek, Philo, Wallison. That I'm sorry to say this because we do have a Brazilian in the chat right now, but Team Brazil really, really not showing up in Division 3. Team Brazil just really not performing well at all here in Division 3. Again, hate to say that, but it is a situation. Fortunately, Sever able to make it into the lobby before it starts, so. Zyno, Joker Lapse, is something I just recently learned about, actually, and I am a massive fan of them. I would love to see that. Brazilians have short attention spans, says the resident Brazilian. Okay, but we are hopping straight into the action. Let me get everything a little bit recalibrated here just for a second. And we are just about good. Already some craziness happening. And our poor Sever going to be taking the brunt of that. Roddick, Kajak of Berdang, heading through the first lap of Dark Vale. Now that is, I really should have been ready to say it for y'all, but that is going to be one of the key parts of this track, and we're going to see that probably be the major deciding factor of the track. Who can nail that? Another super important point of the track, and we see Roddick absolutely sizzling through it. Caught it going for an interesting lineup. You've got to be very careful on circuit tracks, because if you go off the track like that, it's very easy to trigger those repos. But he is going to be conscious of that and avoid it. You see Roddick and there it is. The repo has been forced. Lopeska moving up in the ranks. Konjakov out in second. And like I mentioned last stop, a very important part of the track right here. We'll see how they handle it. Lopeska on the outside. A very quick whip through it. Konjakov going to be taking it much safer and just going to opt to not get repoed. So Lopeska looking super strong. Let's see how he handles this turn versus Roddick. Now keep in mind, the Cougar definitely going to be hurting on sections like that compared to the EXCTC, having to slow down like they do. But he can manage to get some top speed going here. Parts like this could help him catch Roddick. Now, we've been watching the front field. Roddick swerving away. It looks like we need to keep tuned into it, as Lopeska going to be opting for an overtake if he can. I got a little bit excited there, but I actually had no reason to, because there was no way that was going to happen. And that Cougar with that slow acceleration, not going to be able to find the catch. But the pressure is definitely on Roddick through this section right up ahead. We saw Lopeska with insane execution despite being on that Cougar. Oh, and it looked like he was really going to be getting repoed there, but it didn't happen. And look at that top speed advantage. Oh, and he finds it. Will he hold on to it? One more big turn. Make that two. We've got this top speed portion. It looks like he has managed to break away somewhat. Now, I have stayed tuned in on this race for the front because it's been quite engaging, and we've got still about half the track left to go. But do not worry, we will be catching midfield action too, and I think we're going to start right now. We've got Konjakov in third, Kotick fourth, Toba fifth, Kippy sixth. Very big gaps between all of them, all things considered. And it looks like first and second continues to be the race to watch. Konjakov hoping to get into the mix here. Okay. Lopeska on that Cougar. Off meta choice for sure. Despite having what looks to be the superior lines, he hasn't managed to break away from Roddick. And Roddick still keeping it super close, under 10 meters. Will increase, like I've been saying, in sections like this, but it's a give and take. Let's see Lopesca. And Roddick. Roddick just sliding a bit more through it. Lopesca with that complete control. Oh, and too far on the inside. Just a little lapse of focus, but Kondrakov does hand it back to him, and now we got to fight for third. Lopesca, however, oh, he has wrecked. So a bit of jitters all over the place on the field so far, and Roddick is going to be our track leader. Tova still trying to nudge his way there into third, but Kondrakov blocking all attempts. Okay, and let's see how it goes. Roddick taking it pretty safe through there. Lopesca just going to full speed through it as much as he can. And oh my, he's going to be pressuring Roddick quite heavily into this huge turn, double turn. Okay. Roddick not too phased. He almost catches Lopesca up in it. And Kondrakov is nearby as well at this point. Lopesca does have the upper hand. Roddick not letting him squeeze by too easily, not without a fight at least. Throwing everything he can at the wall, hoping something sticks, but Lopesca just slowing down on the turn. Roddick saying, you better keep going max speed. You let off even a little bit, I'm going to be coming back. And even through those scary repo sections, Roddick continuing to challenge Lopesca, and this is going to be a major section. Oh, Roddick spun 180 and in the grass. He's got to forcibly repo. He's going to get passed up by a number of racers. Kondrakov seems to have wrecked. So at least he's going to be ahead of that, still sitting in fourth place. Kippy in third on that Toyota. Yeah, the attempted park, but Kippy is losing control as well, and that section just seems to be a killer. You don't expect it, but it's really been putting in work. And we're starting the 8th lap here. We've got Roddick and Kondrakov fighting third, and Lopesca clean shot in first. Any grass touching fans in the house? We do have a few on the track. Any in the chat? You don't have to answer that. We do have Roddick and Kondrakov still neck and neck for that third place. Into one of the more obvious killers of the track. Tova been caught up. And as long as Lopesca doesn't wreck, it looks like he'll probably be able to take it pretty safe straight into first. Tova, bit of a different line from the rest. Kippy squeezing right into that fourth place. All of them in a row. Kippy gaining advantages like crazy here, left and right. Really applying the pressure to Roddick in the next to last lap. Oh man. And something is going to break here. Guaranteed. This track is just too technical to not. Millimeters right there. It felt like. Another big turn. The double turn coming up. Kippy hoping to make moves. I don't know how he didn't get repoed there. Really getting into the thick of it with Roddick, but not able to come up with anything. until I said that. And then he just finds it out of nowhere and just a quick and easy pass headed into the final lap. Around the outside indeed. All right. Tova holding strong that second. Kippy in his rear view is of course going to be pretty troublesome, pretty worrisome for Tova, but if he can keep things calm and secure, he should be able to lock down the second place on our first track. I think we got 5 to 6 tracks today. Roddick taking it very slow through that. Full stop essentially. Kondrakov 5 meters behind. He doesn't have that much room to work with. Maybe he's hoping one of these players up here make a mistake. Roddick just pushing it up the middle. Slows down into the turn. Still got it over Kondrakov. Not much room left to work with here. Unless someone's got a rabbit in their hat, I don't think it's going to happen. And it won't. And pretty clearly defined positions for the rest of the field. Okay. First track. Already a good amount of action. Heart rate really high. Oisiak has made it into the lobby. Shout out. Lopeska having a good time on that Cougar. Able to lock down a first dub with the Cougar. Kippy on the comeback indeed. Able to find third place. Not bad, not bad. And Tova, who is our current overall second place in the league, and the front runner of that group of 4 in second, third, fourth, fifth, finds another second. But don't get too confused. That was just our first track. Up next, we've got Green Haze Valley. We'll have RV Simo on-road track, and then we've got 3 more. So 5 tracks left to go. Whole lot of racing left to play out. We were a little bit too focused on that battle between first and second to really appreciate how much Kippy came back. But it was a very nice comeback for Kippy. Shout out to Nano, Santi, Frytaz with the subscription. Thank you so much. Cheers. That the money that I get for that will be going to the prize pool for the RVRL. So thank you very much for that, supporting the league, and enjoy the emotes. We've actually got another one on the way thanks to Kippy. That is pending approval right now. We should have it by the next session. It's very fat. I'll say that much. Okay, and we're headed into our next one. Another favorite of mine. That Green Haze Valley. Another Gran Turismo classic track. You can even pause the game and hear the Gran Turismo noises. And this has, yeah, that's definitely one serious section. Another one is this one right ahead. Big decline into a decline turn. It will throw some of the cars off based on their parameters. It looks like most of the cars in the field able to handle it pretty well. EXCTC, Chimera, and Toyota all doing quite well at it. But with those high-speed vehicles, it can be quite tough. Kippy, a little bit of lag. Holding on second. Oh, Zyno, shout out. Thank you for that little lore. Thought I just missed the game it was in. It certainly feels exactly like a Gran Turismo track. Shout out to Saf for sure. It tricked me But anyways, we got Roddick continuing to lead this, and this was a very similar situation that we had last time. We do have some Roddick fans in the chat. Shout out to Nano. But Roddick was leading the very first in dark. What were we just on? Dark. I'm losing it here. Darkvale Forest. But he did end up getting passed by 3 people by the end of it. And he does lose a little bit of traction, but it throws Kippy off as well. And so they're both going to wreck. Konjakov's going to be very appreciative of that. But we'll see if Roddick is able to hold on to this lead throughout the entire track. Because we do have some very consistent racers in here who are able to capitalize on each and every little mistake that's made. And it can be very difficult to deal with. As we see Kippy maintaining podium situation. Roddick on that downslope turn. As is the nature of some of these turns, Roddick goes flying and he's out in 5th. Inigo going to be super happy with a 4th. Lopeska, however, in the 6th with the Cougar. We'll see what he's able to do. We haven't really been able to check exactly where he's been so far. Roddick on the inside going to try to squeeze out Inigo there, but it's not going to happen. Fight for first continues. Konjakov, Tova, Kippy, and our 3 podium positions all in a line. Kippy on the outside, very close to getting repoed, but avoids it. Inigo, Lopeska's passed up 1. Roddick falls down into 7th. Passed by Kotick here. Lopeska and Inigo's lines intersecting a little bit. Lopeska not going to be too happy about that as he has another speed drop here. He is going to be hoping for a pass, and right after this turn we'll see how that 1st and 3rd is doing. We'll see if he's able to take the pass here. He really sends it there, and it does work out for Lopeska, 50 meters out behind podium, but does pass up 1, and Kippy still this shark in 3rd place. Okay. It continues. We see Lopeska about the same distance as he has been for the past lap or so. Kippy, surprisingly, has not been able to make much headway. These positions have stayed about the same, 6th, 7th, still being brawled between Kotick and Roddick. Jeromu, Burdang, and Seber fighting for those back positions. The Latino America fans definitely going to be sad about that one. But he's still got a position or 2 that he can find. Tova on the downslope turn, and honestly, that's been my experience racing on this track, is that section really easy to wreck on if you're not set up for it properly. And Konjakov, who some people not really expecting to be in that 1st place position, because we've got the 2 big names of Lopeska and Kippy here in Division 3. And don't get me wrong, Kippy is our number 2, but 25 meters out behind. Konjakov's got to be feeling good about this as he heads into lap 10. Kippy on the outside. Okay. And after we see this jump through, let's check in backfield just a bit. Lopeska trying to make headway. Hasn't been able to do too much on that Cougar. Kotick has passed up Inigo. Roddick still hoping for a position or 2, and that Chimera has not been the strongest. Although it is a fan favorite. It's a very dependable car. It's used a lot in RVA sessions, for example. I'm sure it's used in IO a good amount too. It's just a very dependable, straightforward, easy to drive car, but they've decided for the circuits, not really what you want. Those EXCTCs have been performing quite well. Toyeka keeping it competitive. Kippy holding out over Tova, but Tova not letting Kippy run away with it, despite that pass a couple laps earlier. Lopezka still struggling to find any kind of grounding. That has been a worrisome position for Tova, is the best way to describe it. He hasn't been looking the most stable on that downslope turn, and it has caused him to do a wreck or two. So if he can straighten that out, he might be able to find the pass on Kippy. But he's got enough time to do it with. I'm not going to, let's not go too far. He's got 5 laps. Kippy was just in the grass. Tova is trying to find some ground here. He's going to go hard into that turn. Not going to be able to find Kippy with it. And into the downslope we go. Kippy, a little bit of a wall ride for a second. Tova going to be on the outside. Both of them. The spin straightens it out, but does lose a little bit of speed. Having to correct. The jump comes out. Tova on the outside quite greatly, but doesn't get repoed. Kippy also on the outside a little bit later. And things stay neck and neck between the two of them, all things considered. And Kondrakov has not broken away either. All it would take is one mistake out of Kondrakov here. Dependable car with landing issues. Are you talking about the Chimera? Because I believe the EXE also has those landing issues. We see Kondrakov taking that turn slow. I don't know if he's always been doing that or not. If that's the way he's been doing it and he's been able to stay ahead, then good. But it did look a little bit wobbly there. We'll see what is able to happen as we check back a little bit. Lopezka has managed to about cut his the gap between 4th and 3rd at about half. Kotick and Roddick continuing to fight. Roddick passing up Inigo. And let's see how it goes. AMV, a very dependable car. I agree. It's a bit of a sleeper pick, for sure. Depends on your racing philosophy. What that means, not entirely sure. But you know what I am entirely sure about? Kippy hunting down Kondrakov. Tova has fallen out of the battle for second. For the meantime, about 40 meters back, he might even be getting accosted by Lopezka at this point. So it really is down to Kippy to try to catch Kondrakov. Kondrakov has ran away with this race. He found a lead early on over Roddick, and he has held onto it and ran with it. We are entering next to the last lap. Let's see. Tova, healthy lead over Lopezka, all things considered. Roddick has passed up Kotick, and so they're going to be continuing to battle it out. Once this race ends, we'll be promptly switching over to Kotick and Roddick and seeing how they're doing in their final lap. But for now, Kondrakov still holding Kippy to the fire. Shout out to Sun Tzu. Truly a visionary figure to be able to say something so long ago that still applies to Revolt even today. We are entering the final lap, and guess what? We've got a new wrinkle in our situation because we've got some lap traffic out of Sever. And so we'll see if that leads to Kondrakov's demise. We'll see if he's able to finish this last lap out strong. But Kippy, Kippy, I don't know, 20 meters. It is looking like it's going to come down to lap traffic interference. Kondrakov definitely a little bit distracted. He runs into the fender, Sever, he's honking, but he's got plenty of room. He just needs to not freak out, and he doesn't. He keeps it strong, and it is going to be the first place lockdown for Kondrakov on our second track. Okay. Meanwhile, Roddick has passed up Kotick, put some space between the two of them. Burdang not able to find anything major, but he has passed up that backfield. Seber wasn't able to catch Jeromu. In fact, he fell back quite a bit behind that AMV. At this point, the commentator's curse is something that is often in my mind. I don't say anything, but I'm just kind of thinking it like, wouldn't it be crazy if? Fortunately, nothing too crazy coming out yet. Thank you for that follow. And let's see, we've got RV Simo on-road track up next. It's actually our shortest track of today. We're going to be doing 27 laps on that track. 10 more laps than we just did on Green Haze Valley. If you're just tuning in now, you missed Darkvale Forest. Lopesca won that one. And in fact, that reminds me, I can get our standings going here. Let me pull up the program for it, and we'll be ready. If we do have a second, I'll just go back to the lobby really quick. Okay, let's give it a go. We've got RVRL scores. Okay, so it does look like Lopesca ahead by 2 points. Kippy and Tova both tied at 36, as well as Kondrakow. Not much to say about it yet, other than these scores are tight. Lopesca, dominant position on the first track, but not able to find the same success on the next. We'll have to wait and see how RV Simo plays out. It does seem like we still have a second here, so I can pull up some of our overall standings. If you are curious about how Division 3 has been going, you can see Lopesca has been in the leadership role. 2 wins already here in Division 3. Let's see if he can find a third. Tova, no wins yet, but strong finishes, consistent finishes, currently sitting in second. Kondrakow in third, and in fact, Kotick and Kippy nearby that as well. Does look like we've switched up the track. Should be heading in soon. You're right, G. You're right, G. G, I would love to have G on in the commentary booth as well. That would be hilarious. It would definitely heighten the broadcast, but I do love a good solo cast. No pressure on any of y'all. We do have RV Simo, and we are in the thick of it, as you can tell. Cars are going all over every which way. They're flying about. Nobody knows what the hell is going on except for Inigo. Putting in work on that Chimera TC. This is the track for him for sure. Kotick in the EXCTC still applying a ton of pressure. In fact, he might find a pass. Goes on the inside, nudging Inigo left and right. Kippy going to be benefiting from that, and Kotick is just driving extremely aggressively, saying, "Get that Chimera TC off the track. What are you doing? What is that? You call that a car? What is that? That's a car? That's a car? Okay." Hey, Kippy goes flying as well. So is Kondrakow and Tova for first, second. Kippy, Roddick, and Kotick. Oh my, this has been a mess so far. All bets are off. Now, I think that was Kotick spinning 180 on air, but for the most part, it looks like these drivers are bloodthirsty. They will do whatever it takes to climb the ladder, and they are proving that point right now. Kondrakow being approached by Tova. It looks like the main passing route has been just taking it really far on the inside and just pushing the car right out of the way and using them to kind of springboard forward or to straighten out their own turns. So that has been the main strategy. It's caused a lot of desecration on the field. Tova and Kondrakow. Tova keeping it very respectable so far. We'll see how that continues. We've got 20 more laps here on RV Simo. Already a 70-meter distance between these second and third. Okay. And Tova, slight spin, loses his footing again in this battle against Kondrakow, and let's see how the rest of the battle is going on. Kotick has not had the most consistent race, but he's managed to keep it in the fight for the podium. Up against Kippy right now, the current holder of the podium. Inigo, just a smooth race in that Chimera TC so far. He has been getting pushed around here and there. It does remind me of the Mercedes versus BMW event as well. Missed that event. That was a joy to cast. Caught it. And none of the racers able to drive this consistently. In fact, the only racer in this group of 4 that we haven't seen wreck so far has been Roddick, and that's because he hasn't been in the camera. Roddick getting a little bit frustrated with what's going on, and I would be frustrated at this point too. Roddick has had 2 strong first place leads and has lost them both quite drastically by the end of the race. And right here an RV Simo is really getting pushed around. So frustration certainly starting to build for Roddick. We'll see if he can keep it glued down and can use the things that he's feeling to push himself forward instead of backward. He's making it work so far. Big slowdown there on that turn, but it's all good. He's continuing to make it through. In fact, we see Lopesca moving into 6. He switched over to the Humma for this more technical track. I'm sorry to tell you all that so late, but keep in mind, if you choose the EXC, the Chimera, or the Toyota, you have to stick with it for the entire race. But if you choose Cougar, Humma, AMW, you can switch freely between those 3. We continue to see Kondrakov versus Tova. Tova a little bit more aggressive with his driving than we saw him last time. But Kondrakov is still the one holding on to this lead, and Kondrakov won the last race. So this would be quite the situation if Kondrakov really started to break away here. Because, like we said, the stars of the show have really been Lopesca and Kippy. They're the only 2 people who have won a session in Division 3 so far. So if Kondrakov made a big money move and could lock down a first place for a week, this could really start to change the rhythm of Division 3. Now keep in mind, we're not even at the halfway point of the RVRL yet, so a whole lot of room left to go. Tova continuing to stay right behind Kondrakov. They're both in the same car. They're taking similar lines, and Tova's just going to benefit here from being able to take Kondrakov's exact lines and just be set up for success. It looks like Kondrakov has really prepared these tracks. Tova might have as well, of course, but this is just a nice position to be in. So we'll leave them there for the moment. We've got Kippy a ways back in the Toyota, still being chased down by Kotick. They've had much less consistent races than our 2 front places right now. Lopesca trying to do what he can, having a bit of a rocky road here out in 5th. Inigo nearby in that Chimera. And let's move back to the front, because honestly, this has been the most rewarding race to watch. Yeah, it was a really sick event. I think it was hosted by Bimmy in the Alias Revolt Master community. Mercedes versus BMW. It was like a team kind of event. And yeah, it was really cool. Would love to do that again. At least I think it had, correct me if I'm wrong there, Zino, but I think it had team elements to it as well, which were really cool to see. So I would love to see another event like that. Of course, those cars don't show up in the IO pack. So for an event like this, you're definitely not going to be seeing that on the roster, but lots of room for it in other places. And, you know, I'm talking about that because we just got a nice clean race continuing between Kondrakov and Tova. Nothing major changing. We do have some lap traffic that could influence that. They're on lap 21 and 27. And they're really just showing off the amount of work that they put into this circuit session. And congratulations to them for doing so well. We'll see who actually wins it. But Kondrakov and Tova, hats off to you for just a really, really strong race. Now, I saw Kippy say FFS in the chat. I'm assuming Kotick has been giving him some trouble with letting him pass, but Kippy was in the lead over it. Now, a minor mistake out of Tova, a quick recovery, but he's no longer going to be right behind Kondrakov. So we'll see if Tova's still able to find that same degree of consistency when he's not right there able to follow the same line. In the meantime, the battle for 5th is still on. Lopeska versus Inigo, Chimera versus Hama. Pretty evenly matched cars, I'd say, for this track. Lopeska on the inside, but he taps on that upper portion, and so does Inigo. Ooh, and lap traffic kind of mixing in here. Kondrakov, he's going to let him by, our current race leader. Ooh, I mean, it's just multiple different laps being represented at the same time right here. Really all over the place. Tova is getting caught up as well in that mix. And Lopeska has left Inigo for the moment. Roddick out in 7th, Verdang 8th, Sever 9th, Wojciech 10th, Jeromu 11th. And as we flip back, Kondrakov once again still locked in with Tova. Let's see if there's any other closer battles. I'm going to continue to flip. And it does look like Lopeska and Inigo should be a pretty good one to watch for the moment. We'll try to flip back and see Kondrakov's last lap, but let's just watch for a bit. Inigo, ooh, and Lopeska even goes for the repo. Let's check out Kondrakov here. Starting lap 27 very shortly. I would show Kondrakov, but he's 40 meters ahead. We don't even need to see it really. I think it's just locked down. Let's continue watching. And now it's Roddick versus Lopeska. Ooh, that's gone too. I can't seem to make a commitment to what I want to watch. So we'll just watch Kondrakov in this race out. Tova's going to be in 2nd. And anything else to watch? Doesn't look like too much else. Inigo, Lopeska, Roddick, they have made 50 meters errors before on this track. So we could see something major happen here. We'll watch from Lopeska's perspective because he's wedged in the middle of them. And we'll see if any mistakes are made. The Trinity of Annoyance. Oh, not it was Verdang. Okay. Who's got BL? Interesting question. 40 point. It's actually Tova. It's actually Tova with the 20.132. 10 milliseconds over Kondrakov. Oh, am I quiet right now? Okay, I look pretty good. I could maybe turn down our game audio a little bit though. Don't know if that was annoying anybody. We've been good on the mixes lately though. I've been figuring everything out. Okay. Let me know if I did anything catastrophic, but I don't think we did. We're gonna be headed into the next track shortly, and that track is. We've officially reached the halfway point. We've done Darkvale Forest, Green Haze Valley, and RV Simo on-road track. Up next, we've got Ketune Speedway. Next to last track is going to be LS Tama Valley Route B, and the last track is going to be Jimson Weeds Raceway. So we've got some heavy hitters back to back to back. Ketune, a mainstay. Pretty much, it feels like any circuit event is going to have Ketune in it. It just is that beloved of a track. LS Tama Valley Route B, often showing up in circuit events. And of course, Jimson Weeds Raceway, one of the newer circuit tracks, because we don't have circuit tracks come out all the time. Of course, it's not that new. There's going to be a lot of people familiar with it. I, for one, am super familiar with it. I would love to do the reverse version as well, which has the rain. Right? I remember racing in the rain with the NY54 on that track and just being like, you know what? Maybe after 2 decades of playing this game, maybe NY54 isn't my favorite car anymore. It was horrible. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. We've got Ketune Speedway coming up next. Okay, any swaps coming out? Lopeska back on the Cougar. And so the interesting thing about this track is it has a nice blend of technical portions and also some top speed as well. So Lopeska is going to be opting for the Cougar to benefit from that. But you'll see just how technical this track is with these turns. You know, having the proper line will get you very far. Lots of different styles of turns being represented. Got a big one coming up right here that throws a ton of people off. Some more. And already a lap done. We saw, I think that was Roddick and someone, Cam Tova. Lopeska a little bit snapped on that corner. Kondrakov once again leading our race. All things have been coming up Kondrakov lately, but Kippy is not going to let it get away from him that easily. Kippy has been a contester for these first place finishes all the way through this event. He did have a huge recovery process on the first track, but on the other two, he's been up there making sure that first place isn't just a walk in the park. Inigo putting in work here, just like he was on RV Simo, but Tova challenging him, does find the pass. Okay, that Chimera, and especially through this top speed section, it's just really going to fall off compared to the EXC. So we got Kotick 4th, Tova 3rd, Kippy 2nd, Kondrakov. Strong lead. Strong lead. We almost saw Kippy able to pass. It was close. Kondrakov just been holding out. Oh my. Definitely not as dominant of a lead as he did have in the previous two races. Kippy, especially through that section. Of course, it is because Kondrakov has to slow so much, so, you know. Okay, and we will leave our two front place contestants as they head through that top speed section. We've got Tova, Kotick, Inigo, Roddick in 6th, Lopeska in 7th, continuing to fall out of the race for first. And we're back to Kippy and Kondrakov. So, Lopeska with 2 session wins on 2 different weeks. So to see him back there, of course, keep in mind he is on that Cougar. But this is definitely going to be much welcomed by all the racers on the field to see Lopeska not doing particularly well. Kippy not able to close the gap. We're on lap 8 of 21. Already passed 1/3 of the way through. Heading towards the halfway point already. And past those very early turns, this has not been the most eventful of our tracks so far. We'll see if that changes by the end of it. But it's just been more of a detail-oriented kind of track where the gaps that are being made aren't necessarily due to major errors. It's just racers taking better lines. So we'll flip back towards the front as we see Lopeska moving up to 100 meters behind. In that 7th place position, Inigo fighting with Kotick still. Tova, Kippy, and Kondrakov out in the lead. Lopeska picked Cougar, and Terra is nowhere to be found. I wouldn't be offended personally, but if Lopeska is deeply offended, I wouldn't blame him either. So, you know, it is what it is. He said, Senpai noticed me, and you know what I mean? Where is Senpai? We continue through Keitune. Some lap traffic. Nothing too major though. Tova and Kippy. Second, third. A lot of lap traffic at this point. And we see Kippy with that alternative routing since he's in the Toyeka, taking it pretty far on the outside, if I do say so myself. Fortunately, not going to get caught up in the wrecks that happened for the racers he was lapping. But we can watch it again, and we can watch Kondrakov do it first, because I'm really interested in seeing this. We see Kondrakov, slow, boom, way on the inside. Kippy, wall bang. Now that was a little bit overdone, and in fact, Tova is going to be keeping it close. But it is interesting to see how the two different cars have two different lines. I don't even know what happened right there. I'm gonna be honest. Like it just, I don't even. Oh, what even happened? I don't even know what happened right there. I mean, that was the least place I would have expected something to happen, but it was Kippy who wrecked there, and Tova does find the pass. Simple as. Kippy glitched. Okay. Meanwhile, Kotick is definitely going to be happy about this. He's only about 20 meters behind Kippy. Interesting. So we have a couple different theories on why this is happening. But regardless, it has happened. And I've got to tell y'all, Kondrakov is not budging. It's not often that we see a racer who is not one of our top racers that we see all the time, who is just able to keep these cold nerves throughout this. But this will be his third track win in a row as far as my score goes. And 30 meters in the head, and he's just not showing any sign of budging, even slightly. He's got 3 more laps, I guess. Well, I guess 3 more laps left to go. Just starting lap 19 of 21, and we'll see if he's got what it takes to lock it down. Tova definitely not letting him win, but Kondrakov showing no signs of fear at all. Kippy holding on to third. Kotick has fallen back, but let's continue to watch this. This is the race to watch. This is the racer to watch. Okay. We've only got a little bit amount of time left to work with. It's really running. Now, a Joker lap where you go to the left on that lap would be really sick, I will say. But staying focused in on our final lap here, let's see if Kondrakov has what it takes to lock this down. Oh, y'all could hear that? Yeah, I've got my PlayStation going on my second monitor. I'm playing some Spyro. Okay, and it's all Kondrakov. He finds his third race win. Katova, nothing to scoff at with another second. But, you know, Kippy third, not finding the results he wanted for sure. Kotick would have wished he could have got in a little bit of the mix with Kippy, but not able to catch him out. Lopeska in seventh. Burdang 8th, Seber 9th, Oisiak 10th, Jeromu 11th. We'll see if Jeromu can catch Oisiak. Ah, Kippy getting some freezes. That's what it... Okay, because we were actually wondering what the hell happened. Definitely, is it... Do you need to turn off the stream? Or is it some kind of Revolt-specific issue? Because I've definitely gotten Revolt-specific issues before with freezing. Maybe could restart your game. CPU dying. Yep. Okay, so I will pull up the standings for us here in just a moment. We can see the best lap information as well. 27.125, 27.096, 27.069. It actually was Kippy who had our best lap out in third, Tova in second with the second best lap. And let's see how we're doing scores-wise. We've got Kondrakov, 10-point lead over the competition, but as you can see, Tova has been keeping it quite close. All it would take is Kondrakov to have a 5th or 6th place finish and Tova win that race, and Tova could be right in the lead. Same situation for Tova over Kippy. And we've started to emerge into this section of our race where a lot of the drivers are seemingly more spaced out than they were. But thanks to that MotoGP point scoring system, there's much to be lost, much to be gained. These positions all still up in the air. Even Kippy could find first. We've got 2 tracks left. Now, if Kondrakov comes in second 2 races in a row and Kippy comes in first, for example, it's not going to be enough. But if Kondrakov starts to slip here on our final laps, final tracks, there's definitely room for him to get back in. We've got cheers for Taco. Wrong day, buddy. Wrong day, buddy. But I do appreciate a good taco. So I can definitely see where the enthusiasm is coming from, because you know there's nothing that can really hit the same things that a taco does. We are here on LS Tama Valley, and keep in mind this might not be our most beautiful track. The way the ground is set up, the gravel, it kind of messes with the video a little bit. So please do excuse that. It's not your eyes. It's not the stream. It's the track. We've got Kotick, Kippy, Tova. Big section of our track. Very important section right through here that we're headed through, and Kotick is not able to stay steady through it. Tova almost getting all the way fully executed on that, but not able to find the ending. One more important part of the track right there. You can go into the grass. You won't get repoed. And they start their second lap. Only 18 laps here. Kotick, despite early issues through the narrow section of the track, is keeping Kippy's feet to the fire, and in fact they're kind of lag boosting each other in a really haphazard way. Kotick, really far on the outside there. Kippy much more lined, and Kippy, you know, this is a very common circuit track, so I would expect Kippy to definitely have the general line for this track figured out. Kotick is going to be struggling a bit more to find that consistency. Roddick sneaking into second place. Roddick has had 2 first-place leads on our first 2 tracks, ultimately lost them. And wow, there was a repo. I think that was an X. Maybe that was just a very far forced repo. But Kippy just lost 3 positions thanks to that situation. And again, circuit tracks, if you are trying to cut corners, if you cut the corners too far, you can get punished quite hard. So again, not quite sure the full situation for Kippy there. I'm sure he can tell us after the race, but troublesome to say the least. And he's going to be back into recovery mode. Lopeska in that Cougar out in 5th, had an early win, had the first win of today, but hasn't been able to repeat that same success with the Cougar. But some troubles through the narrow section for a number of racers. And Lopeska is going to be hoping to gain a position. Tova on the inside, not going to quite do it. Roddick in defensive mode. Kippy got an X. Caught it cutting. That's an X. And that's a huge loss for Kotick. It is Tova and Roddick. Cougar Jimson Weeds race waiting room. I looked up at a wrong time though, not your fault, mine. But that narrow section again is just the main killer of the track. So gonna have to stay locked in through that section for sure in the future. In the meantime, Kippy putting in that recovery work. Indeed, out in second for the moment, despite that huge X that lost him a lot of time early on. And Roddick, like we said, despite early leads, has not been able to find consistency. I'm rooting for Roddick, don't get me wrong, but we'll see if Kippy is once again able to make some magic happen. Tova, nothing to scoff at, like we've said, has been beating Kippy in a lot of these races. So it's not just Kippy trying to challenge Roddick, it's also Tova out there with that. And by the way, that EXETC skin that he's rocking is my skin of choice as well. So definitely can appreciate a nice yellow on blue type skin through that narrow section. The Cougar style of EXETC. Lopeska's way off the track there. We saw him getting a repo in. Not going to bode well for our Cougar racer at all whatsoever. Tova, wow, very far on the outside, not going to get an X, and he's very far outside once again. This is going to be big for Kippy. Kippy. Tova keeping on the inside. He's going to be trying to do it once again as he has been on a number of these other laps. Yes, he will. But if he's not careful, Kippy's definitely got something to say here. You can tell that Roddick has some experience with the track, though. A lot of times racers are going to be very scared to drive on the grass. Grass not only can repo you, but it also can slow you down quite drastically on these circuit tracks. But not the case at that specific part on this track. It's actually going to set him up properly for the turn. So Roddick showing off some track knowledge, and indeed he does have that lead as we pass the halfway point of our track. It's Roddick, Tova, Kippy. Let's see how the rest of the field's doing for just a moment after they make their way through this troublesome portion of the track. Okay, Kippy, once again, getting some sort of X, has to repo Kondrakov, who we talked about could blow up his whole session if he isn't able to lock it out here, and he does have third place. It's going to be good enough, I suppose, especially with Roddick leading this and not Tova. He's definitely going to be bailed out by Roddick here in a big way if Tova isn't able to find first place. But he's definitely not out of the woods yet because Tova is keeping it very close. And in fact, he could look to go for a pass here in the coming turns. Setting himself up so he has no airtime, whereas Roddick does have some airtime on the inside, and he pushes Roddick out of the way, and now Tova's trying to shut down a 25-pointer. If he does so, it's definitely going to benefit him quite greatly. He'll have 9 points over third place. Because 25 points for first, 16 points for third. So this would be really good for Tova if he can lock down first. Kondrakov could even fall back further. Lap 13 of 18, and I'm once again tempted to flip over and see how these other racers are doing, and indeed I will do so. Kondrakov, big lead over Kippy and Kotick. Lopeska in 6, struggling to defend against Inigo. Jeromu beating out Burdang and Seber and Oisiek with the AMW, and we flip back just in time to see a wreck through that narrow section. Tova does get bailed out. He was in a 180 position, but Roddick kind of pushed him back towards that 0 degrees position, and it headed into the lap 14. Tova, once again, finding a closed gap out of thin air. They're both driving the exact same car, but Tova just seems to have really good lines. Again, Roddick jumps up into the air through that narrow section. Tova just keeping full speed, whereas Roddick just struggling to keep his car on the track. Now, Tova is pretty far on the outside there, but he's going to be able to defend against Roddick. Lap 15 of 18. And it is still neck and neck between them, but look at the distance for Kondrakov. He's only 8 meters back. Kondrakov could close this all down and find a first place. Once again, it would be his 4th first place in a row, if I remember correctly. Maybe even his 5th. As we head into the final laps, Roddick cutting over, but he doesn't have any issues with X's or anything like that. Kondrakov 20 meters back. This is looking pretty smooth for Roddick. Okay. Like we mentioned, on the inside, not going to find it. We've got one more turn that he could go for. And he does go on the outside here after it. He's not going to do it this time around. He's going to stay on the inside. And Tova's going to say, thank you very much. Well, it's back and forth. And it is Roddick coming out ahead there against all odds. He changes his route on the fly to take the inside path against Tova. It works out. We're through the narrow section. Tova taking it back. He's just got the better line there. On average, Roddick, we were talking about him coming up off the air, or coming up into the air and having some air time, whereas Tova doesn't. But Roddick with that slight cut, it's hard to say who's out actually coming in the lead there. But Tova seems to have the advantage after that, on the way out of the narrow section. And it's working wonders for Tova. They're on the final lap. Kondrakov is only 10 meters behind them. Roddick changes his routing on the fly again, but it's not going to be enough. He's on the outside there, and it does look like Tova's going to lock down first. Kondrakov in third. Wow, and so that's going to be 9 points into Tova's pocket for the overall standings here. Lopeska wall riding, and he passed up Inigo, and he beats Inigo there on the final turn. We didn't get to see much of it, but we did see Lopeska just going for an all-out 100% wall ride and finding it. Ha! Ha! Tova winning. Not the most expected situation, and this kind of could muddy the waters as we head into our final race. It doesn't look like our scores will be as clean cut as they once were thought to be. So I will wait for our last to finish up, and then I will back out to get us our updated standings. Lopeska gotta go. Okay, let's see our standings as we head into the finale. (102) versus 101. It is a 1-point lead by Kondrakov over Tova. definitely one of the closest scores that we've seen going into a finale. It doesn't get much closer than 1 point. So we're going to be headed straight away. It looks like they've really broken away from the crowd. It's going to take something catastrophic. But Kippy has been known to make things happen if he can find 25 points. And if Tova or Kondrakov blow up their race, he could find the pass too. If they both blow up their race, he could win. Probably not going to happen. We got Lopesco had to leave out in 4th place. So Roddick and Kotick going to be passing. We'll see how the race continues to play out. But we've got our eyes on Roddick and Kotick, but much more so on Kondrakov and Tova, as well as Kippy, of course, seeing what he can do. We are headed into our final track. We've got Jimson Weeds Raceway, a very important first set of turns, rather. And it's coming up Kotick for the moment. Tova, rather, nowhere to be seen. Kippy moving up a little bit. There's our Tova. Kondrakov cutting through. We have had close battles all the way through this league. It's really been cool to see because, for example, in the last league, we had, especially in the lower divisions, very big gaps between skill. And it often was a shoe-in on who was going to win. Not the case at all here in our Division 3 for Revolt Racing League Season 2. We've got Kondrakov fighting with Kotick. Kotick really wanted to get 25 points here. If he managed to do so, he could move up a number of positions. And so it's not over yet. Big money moves on the line for Kotick, but he's up against a beast here with Kondrakov. Kondrakov, the first time in about 4 races that he didn't come in first on the previous track, and he's certainly hoping to change that headed into Jimson Weeds Raceway. We're already on lap 3 of 16, and as it's developed, Kotick in first, Kondrakov in second, and Tova in third. 1 point separating Tova and Kondrakov. It is Kondrakov currently leading by 1. Roddick not out of it yet. Kippy, though, in 4th, 5th position. He is not making the waves that we quite expected. Of course, still a lot on the line left to go. But as you can see, it looks like Kotick and Kondrakov are well acquainted with this track because they've been making very few mistakes, and Tova's been right behind them as well the whole time. So, as unsure as the situation is for right now, if I were to make a prediction, I would say that it's going to be very difficult for Kippy and Roddick to find headway based on where they're sitting right now. Tova, however, definitely within striking distance. And once these laps start to tick down of our last track of the day, tension's definitely going to begin to heighten. There's Kotick off the road. It's now Kondrakov in the lead. Tova has passed Kotick as well. So they've gotten the wild card out of their view, and it's just the 2 big boys for our race. Don't get me wrong, Kotick definitely not falling out of this yet. Despite that error, he's made a full recovery. He might not be in that first place position anymore, but he can definitely cause some mayhem. And indeed, he's going to be looking to do so. Kondrakov a bit wide, and Tova going to get passed up by Kotick. Just kind of looking there at Kondrakov. Headed into it, but it was actually Kotick who ended up making the moves. Okay. We've got recovery by Kotick. Let's see. We've got Roddick, Inigo, Kippy has fallen back to 6th. So I looked away at an absolutely horrible time, guys. I really hate that. I really hate that. It really wasn't even necessary to look away at all. And in that 1 little millisecond that we looked away, see how the other racers are doing, Tova is trying to lock down this race. And Tova's not really been winning any of these. I don't think Tova just won one, right? But besides that, it's been all Kondrakov. And Tova has been in the back seat. He's not been in the limelight in this session. Kondrakov on the inside, but he gets a little bit distracted by what Tova was doing, and he goes too far on the inside, and he gets knocked out of it a little bit. So now Kondrakov is about 28 meters behind Tova. Kotick is wedged in between them, still causing some mayhem. Lopeska 1 win, Kondrakov 3 wins, and Tova 1 win. Thank you. Getting those numbers straight for me. So Tova, with by far the most consistent performance of the day, Kotick once again losing some control on early turns of the lap. Kondrakov is going to be back. And you know, when you're racing like this and you're in Tova's position and you see Kotick is in second place, you're like, oh, hell yeah. Oh, this is perfect. Oh, yes, this is perfect. And then you see Kondrakov move into second place and you're like, that's really not what I wanted to see. Even though he's far away, 30 meters away, Tova would have much preferred that he was seeing Kotick was the name behind him and not Kondrakov. But Kotick, in the meantime, he has fallen out 40 meters, so that wildcard situation has pretty much disappeared from the equation. Of course, Kotick going to be a very respectable third place if he finishes in it, but Roddick not letting it happen easily. And keep in mind, Kotick and Roddick, only 3 points of separation between them. So definitely could be some shuffling in the scores midfield. But continuing on with our focus towards this main battle that has erupted between Tova and Kondrakov. It's been brewing for a while now. We weren't sure what was going to be Kippy's role in it, what was going to be Lopeska's role in it. But as Kippy and Lopeska both fell out further and further, it's really emerged to just be Kondrakov and Tova. With 5 laps left, it's looking really promising for Tova, but he's got to lock it down. And if you're in a position like this, and you start driving safe as Tova, Kondrakov can catch you still. So it's really going to come down to driving styles and the strategies that they choose. Now, since we do have just a moment, was this commentator's curse again? Honestly, I looked away for literally a millisecond, and it happened. So it was kind of a curse, but it was like not the curse. It was like the secondary curse. It was the being a bad observer curse was what I hit him with. I hit the stream with rather, but it's not over yet. Still moves left to be made, but Tova has got the pace, and we can see it. The Kondrakov crash, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It wasn't even necessarily that big of a crash for Kondrakov, but Tova has just had the pace here, and he's just been lengthening this gap over Kondrakov over these laps, as he continues to make that number in the bottom lap more and more red as he approaches 50 meters ahead of Kondrakov. Good call. Good call. Let me try it out. Ooh. Give me just a moment. There we go. Okay, and it's coming up all things Tova so far. We can see some scenes not the best, but a lot of them are quite good. And you can really get a pretty good grasp of just how far Tova is ahead as he approaches 60 meters out in the lead ahead of Kondrakov. I'm just happy to have this camera, honestly. And thank you for reminding me that this camera exists, because a lot of times when I want to use it, it's not the most ideal spots. But yeah, so I think I'll switch to the overhead camera just for that final lap, just so we don't have it blocked off at all. And we can see it from his perspective. He's got a much better lap than Kondrakov. He was on the inside and lost a little bit of time, but it's looking quite easy for Tova to lock this down. And don't worry, I won't be flipping too far. I just wanted to get a quick idea of how the other positions are standing. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tova who is going to win our session. Maybe not an expected result for a lot of people. Kondrakov really stepped out into the spotlight and was turning it up. And then, of course, every single Division 3 session, we've got a spotlight cast on Lopeska and Kippy as two of the big dogs of Revol itself. But neither of them were able to perform in this session, as some might have hoped. We do have Seber on the pass over Berdank. Kotick also putting in some work there. So, congratulations to Tova on the win. Kondrakov, second place. We really thought that Kondrakov, or at least I thought Kondrakov had locked it down. But Kondrakov still got to be happy with the second place. It's definitely going to be pushing him up in the standings. Now, keep in mind, Lopeska is our current leader of the overall session, which I will show you all in just a second as I get the updated scores, as we can check out the final scores so you know for sure how it all shook out. We had Tova, 126 points, 4-point lead over our second place. Kondrakov, who led for most of the session. Kippy, who kind of had a hand in every single race, but ultimately wasn't able to find many of those first places, or any of them really, but still finishes out in third, a podium finish for Kippy. Roddick and Kotick actually tied at 76 points each. So we'll have to see who got, I think, did Roddick get a second place? I think Roddick got a second place. I don't know if Kotick did. So that might be Roddick in fourth and Kotick in fifth, but we'll have to get confirmation on that. Now Lopeska, who couldn't make the last race, very unfortunate to see for sure, but could not finish out that final race. He drops down to sixth overall. And we've got Inigo, Berdang, Seber, Jeromu on the AMV, and Oisiak. So as we flip back for just a moment, we've got our overall point standings here for Division 3. Lopeska winning 2 sessions. This is going to look like, it looks like it's going to be Tova moving in to the overall first place leader of our races. And in fact, Kondrakov might even move into second place over Lopeska. Or it might be Tova, Lopeska, Kondrakov. But either way, Kondrakov getting a lot of points for himself. Kotick doing well also, but I think Kippy with that third place will be moving ahead of him. And pretty much that's that. So thank you for tuning in. Yes, Kippy with a couple freezes, but we had a ton of chatters in here. I'm glad y'all enjoyed. Some familiar faces, some new faces as well. Thank you for the subscription as well, some follows. Shout out to our racers who joined chat. We got Tova, Roddick, Kippy as well, of course. Unfortunately, Roddick not going to be able to participate the next two weeks. Oh, this is actually just an image. But I can tell y'all the updated standings. It is currently Lopeska in first. Lopeska held on to that first place, 2 points ahead of Tova. So Tova is not our overall session leader or our overall division leader yet. But he is leading. He is only behind by 2 points. I don't know if I just did the FU 2 or not. Which way I'm supposed to do it? But if I just offended any British people, maybe I did it intentionally. We've got Kondrakov with 62. We've got 54 for Kippy, and Kotick with 51 overall. So Kippy has moved into fourth place. Kondrakov in third. Kotick in fifth. Roddick in sixth, and so on and so forth. So thank you again for tuning in. Tova shouting out his girlfriend. Shout out to Tova's girlfriend. Thank you for being so supportive. It's so good to see when partners are supportive of each other in things that are important to them. So shout out. And we will be back on Friday at 19 UTC with Division 2. Saturday, 19 UTC with Division 1. And then Sunday at starting around 18:30, 18:45, we'll have the Revolt Endurance Championship returning back to the Revolt United stream with commentary. And unless I'm like deathly ill, I should be able to make every single other of the I should be able to make every session until it ends. So thank you all for tuning in. Expect more commentary, and we'll see you next time with Division 2.